Welcome back to the Scale Forward podcast. I'm your host, Russell, and today's guest is Dmitri from Wismo Labs. What started as a side project has grown into a profitable and scalable platform that helps brands from your everyday mom and pop shops to enterprise retailers build loyalty through the entire post-purchase journey. Dmitri, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Dmitri, can we rewind to the beginning? You launched Wismo Labs back in 2016 or 2015, I believe. Walk us through the entire journey. How did it begin, and when did you realize that this could become a full-time thing?
Well, back in the days in 2000, prior to 2016, I ran e-commerce agency before big brands like Shopify, BigCommerce, etc., were even available to retailers or just was not as popular. And we had multitude of different e-commerce customers where we took care of their logistics, communications, and just the whole operation. They had this mundane question always getting in the way of their support efficiency. Customers were just asking, where is my order? At the same time, that agency was also running the marketing department where it was very clear a lot of effort was done to acquire the new customers, but really retention was not the key. After building initial solution for the specific customer to address the where is my order call volume, it became very clear that this is the period of time when the majority of the customers are most receptive. So we started experimenting with segmentation, and it became very clear that this solution delivered value in excess of the cost. So we were able to turn just simple transactional communication into something that could be a brand building opportunity. And from that point on, we decided to scale this up as a multi-tenant solution. And that's how Wismo Labs has started.
Right. And you started as a side project. You're bootstrapped, right? You didn't get any funding or anything?
Essentially, the proof of concept was built as a project for one of our existing customer back in the days when I had the agency. So the groundwork was already done. So before the project was even officially made as a platform that was available for multiple tenants, from multiple e-commerce retailers, the core underlying structure was already built. And therefore, we ran this side by side with the marketing agency I had at the time and e-commerce agency I had at the time in parallel with a bootstrapped SaaS platform. And initially, it wasn't going too well because I didn't have a clue of how to sell SaaS products. But through the learning experience, I felt that there is an opportunity. It actually came out to be relatively successful in the first few years. In the first 9 months, we probably landed without attempting to sell, probably, under 10 clients. So we clearly saw that there is an opportunity.
Right. And obviously, since then, a lot of competitors have come into the space. We'll get to those. But one thing you mentioned before when we were talking is a lot of people blame the postman or they blame the brand for items not showing up. So why does post-purchase matter so much, do you think, in your eyes?
So in retrospect, like I said, we ran an e-commerce agency that had a marketing department in it. And we had a client who was inundated with amount of unfeasible amount of where is my order calls. So we solved for that. And then we quickly realized that we were spending quite a lot of time on filling the funnel from the top through the marketing efforts, but retention was not the key. And really, in post-purchase experience, it was very clear the difference between open rate and engagement on those transactional messages versus, let's say, post-purchase marketing after the customer has bought. So really, to me, it was very clear that the tracking experience is not just about logistics or addressing where's my order issues. It's the retailer's most engaged audience at their most receptive moments. So combining and turning that transactional message into the brand building opportunity is the key, making Wismo Labs very different from most of the tracking solutions out there. And the data showed that. And at the time, Wismo Labs was just a side project ran by an agency that I had at the time. We attempted to rebuild that software to be a multi-tenant and start selling it to our other retailers of the agency as a SaaS product, as a software as a service product. That proven to be a successful endeavor, and that's how Wismo Labs was born.
Right. Let me wrap my head around this for a second. So you started Wismo Labs. You had an agency. You had a couple of things on the go. What was the moment in time or the point where you just said, all right, I'm going all in on Wismo Labs?
There was significant growth of platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento at the time. And really, it was carving out the amount of market that we could cover doing what we were doing before. And at the time, it always felt we want to use our team's talent not to build something for others. While it was very rewarding, but we wanted to build something for ourselves, the product that we would be proud of, that would deliver value to retailers, and that could be scalable and break us out of this service structure of the business we had at the time.
Were you motivated by, okay, yeah, so growing market, that was the motivation. You saw the potential, perhaps maybe felt like the right time as well. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Hey, Dmitri, for those, since starting way back then to now, I'm sure a lot of stuff have happened, including a bunch of competitors that have showed up on the scene. Oftentimes, we might lump competitors as one group, but what's something that makes Wismo stand out among the crowd, amongst your competitors, that you guys do better than anybody else?
There's two key, very distinct differentiators for us versus everybody else. And I would probably break competitive landscape into couple of segments. Some are just purely transactional shipping notifications, and we don't even play in that space very strongly, simply because this is not what I think we need to do. Because shipping notifications and tracking solutions is nothing more than a commodity, where, like I said before, really the opportunity there is not really to fill that transactional gap, but use this time when the consumers are most receptive for any information from the retailer, that it could be used for way more, which could be anything between brand building, upsell, cross-sell, managing churns, maybe reducing some buyer's remorse and anxiety, maybe forecasting for future, maybe promoting other initiatives within the business. There's so many things that could be done if you understand what the retailers are short-term goals, current problems, future forecasts. And that underlines our second differentiator. Not only that we can talk to retailers, customers on brand and have a different messaging to different segments of the customers at different times, we also currently don't have a self-serve platform for a very good reasons. What we exercise, we call it white glove setup, which essentially allows us to onboard customers and ask them not only, surface questions, hey, what's your problem, how to solve it, how we think to solve it, but really dive deeper into what are the underlying issues under those problems. So, and given that the technology, again, probably a third differentiator that I haven't thought of, where our platform really allows break retailers, customers into different segments and create different messaging for different segments at different times, that all combined together creates the solution that is way beyond transactional and way more engaging, personalized, giving an opportunity to really solidify that experience that a consumer has with the brand after the purchase.
Right. And all that sums up into a better ROI, a better user experience, but more revenue for the mom and pop stores and enterprise clients, which I understand, but you do cater to them, right? If they wanted to use your platform.
It just, you see, really, when somebody calls a retailer mom and pop store, it really does not reflect to what they actually do. We do have mom and pop clients or even solo operators that ship in a realm of 10,000, 20,000 orders a month, but they
Right.
would still, by the size of the operation and logistics of the operation, they would be put in the group of mom and pops. However, so it's very difficult. I would probably avoid even calling them mom and pops, because by all metrics, when it comes to the amount of dollar volume that they move, they're nowhere anywhere near mom and pops. But they could be
Yeah.
a simple user operator. However, the mom and pop store, especially when you convey it as the average Joe understand, it's like, yeah, they cater to sort of a $20 account, a $20 a month account. And that's where the differentiator is. Our pricing starts slightly higher. We will be lowering it down the road, but currently our pricing starts at around $500 a month, which is generally not affordable to what a layman perceive as a mom and pop store, mom and pop operation. So that's probably the sort of a distinction.
I think that helps the people listening and watching, because we don't usually talk about pricing here on the show, but there you have it. The first founder who's not shying away from how much his tool costs. But I think that gives good perspective, and 10,000 volume is, you're right. It's a disservice to call them that. So fair play. But I want to move on to, how do we end up here in terms of, it's one thing to start something, Dmitri. How did you grow it? Can you walk me through your first initial steps on how you marketed this thing, how you got it into the door? How did you get it in front of so many people? And if you can remember, what was your best acquisition channel from the get-go?
Initially, back in the days, all experience I had when it comes to marketing essentially was very close to nothing when it comes to selling the services. I was really good at selling someone else's products. I was really good at SEO. I had a wonderful team of who were very good at copywriting, creating compelling lack of experience selling software. And without trying it, I thought, well, it would be the same. However, what happened when we attempted to scale? Crickets, nothing. So really, what it came down to at the point when we've built something that could be scalable, it was successful enough to be a business, but the lack of inflow of new prospects, that was worrying. So that was back summer of 2018, I think, where I realized that something gotta change. And that was a pivotal moment where the decision was made to actually bootstrap, because I basically bought a couple of marketing courses, went down to the books, tried a few different strategies, and one summer later, the business was back in business, so to speak. And that the following year, business just expanded to the degree it just exploded, to the degree where it was very difficult to handle the amount of customers that we were acquiring. And very many questions start popping up in my head. It was basically the balance between, well, do we really want to grow that fast? How do we grow? And at the time, I perceived like growth as a holy grail. But then after having multiple conversations with a few VC firms, I made a decision that is probably was geared in a sort of a lifestyle and fundamental values that I have internally, that it's better to choose how you grow, because fast growth without proper underlying infrastructure that doesn't align with core fundamental values leads to onboarding clients that you can't really fully support. You patch problems instead of fixing root causes. You burn your team to just basically chase some sort of a metrics that do not work out in a long term. And that is when the decision was made, well, we have to slow down our growth. We don't want to go for investments. The business is doing well enough for us to burn money on experiments without relying on external funds. Man, that is when everything clicked together. We already have white glove support, setup process. We already had a product that is very distinct when it comes to turning the transactional into marketing avenue. We had a team at the time that was really living and breathing the product.
Let me ask you, can you remember what books they were that you bought or that you read, or the courses?
It actually were online marketing courses.
Okay.
And
Nothing wrong with that.
but I would probably now, when past that, I would be shamed of actually, because it's such a cliche in the, so I probably would reframe, especially.
That's fair.
And I can actually even explain why, because some of the tactics that were portrayed there, even when I was going through the courses, like, you don't do this. This is dishonest. But it built enough fundamentals for me to properly pick and choose the next books and next courses. So that's basically why I don't want to really get into the whole journey.
Okay. And so it's growing rapidly, right? You're speaking to some VCs, you're learning what not to do, and you're conscious about the whole thing of what direction you want to take it. I remember you telling me you then, and it was probably at this point, maybe I'm wrong, but at some point you did something that is a cardinal sin usually in business, and you turned off marketing spend, or you paused marketing, right, entirely for, I think it was 18 months. You told me you had to stop marketing because you were growing too quickly. I mean, no, like, Honestly, if you told most founders that, like that is the number one rule of what you never turn off the tap. Can you speak to why you made that decision?
It all came down to the underlying structure of that initial project that we built as a side project. It was not built very professionally, and it came to the point that we were having to spend a lot of time on fixing the problems that shouldn't have been there to begin with. But because of the rapid growth initially, there were no way to stay in that long term. So we knew we need to pause and rebuild the foundation to have the product for the that will last for many years versus just take the money and run.
How did you identify these problems? Was it feedback from customers, or was it just you working in the business and seeing them for yourselves?
Well, generally, those problems were very technical. So me being a geek and understanding how underlying structure works, we had a lot of logs that we had to sift through, figure out like what are the root causes. And essentially, when you integrate with hundreds of different partners and networks of different carriers, unless it's built in a way that is scalable, these issues the issues that inevitably arise when you have so many different vendors APIs to work with, you have to solve them on one by one cases unless everything is designed in a way to alleviate the problems that are systematic.
Right. And so I guess the concern is what you built could all come crashing down pretty quickly if you didn't get the foundation right. And so better to pause and get that sorted, build everything on a strong foundation. Makes sense.
And actually, even sort of a story from the experience. I was scared dearly when we acquired a client who was shipping according to their numbers just south of million packages a month, orders a month. I knew we wanted a client, but I knew that if we were to get that client, we might just lose everything. So that when it was a realization, we need to close the tap. And essentially we just stopped marketing. We still were getting referrals and just the business from the search engine optimization, just some random traffic on the website, but we basically stopped spending on active marketing, SDRs and so on for basically almost 2 years.
And what about now? Where are you at with marketing today? Do you have an ad spend? What's your best acquisition channel?
I would think the best acquisition channel right now, it's still SEO, quite a bit of inquiries just organically. I would probably put LinkedIn on a second spot.
What are you doing on LinkedIn specifically? I mean, SEO, you're talking links, content, on page, off page, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. But for LinkedIn, is there anything that's working really well?
There's a quite few experiments that we always run. And to me, this is something new. So I probably it would be very difficult for me to answer exactly what's being done. I just know as sort of a channel that piques interest where prospects raise their hand. And you can see the journey where the first interaction happens on LinkedIn and then they flow into the website and then the inquiry has happened. So you can see that it's not that LinkedIn it's on its own as a whole selling platform, but it's a part of the process. Yeah. What I know what really never worked is spamming. So basically that
You
never
tried
worked.
it?
There was a few years ago, there was an agency that not an agency, but just a cold email that, hey, why don't you just try this? Well, let's try it, but make sure that we do not spamming. And that didn't work out too well.
Right. What about today? How are you running your day-to-day marketing or SEO? Are you leveraging AI a lot?
You have to leverage AI when it comes to content building to keep up with the scale, but you have to babysit and monitor and double check everything with human eyes. Otherwise, it can go south fairly quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we're anywhere close to a one-click, moonshot prompt that will generate an incredible, helpful article at the end of the day. Not saying that we won't get there, but for those who need to do content marketing, SEO, obviously we need AI, right? Like you just have to keep up with the volume. And so if it could do 80% of it and then you implement 20% human editors or whatever to make sure it's helpful, that's what I'm hearing is the best way. And that's what kind of we do with all our clients as well. Makes sense.
And it's not only about the content generation. There's a lot of analytical data that you need to process, and AI helps with that a lot. And even with our processes within Wismo Labs, we employ AI very heavily when it comes to software development, processing analytical data, reporting to customers. AI is a great tool, and it's interesting when you said that AI is not there yet to replace the human being. I think by the time this is going to happen, internet will be full of AI and there's not going to be any human browsers.
We can, yeah. I mean, I had a podcast recently that someone said the same things. First of all, if anybody opens LinkedIn these days, you do about 15 scrolls and every post is AI and it just feels like bots talking to bots on LinkedIn already. Kind of, it's very obvious. To touch on your point, someone has a theory that very shortly we won't even make it to the homepage of a lot of these businesses, especially with AI search. So if you search for a particular keyword, usually the old method, right, was go to Google, type in the thing, go to their homepage. Is it a fit? Go to their pricing, blah, 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 blah. Now, obviously, this is nothing revolutionary. You can do all that in the search bar of AI and you get results and you can rah, 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 rah.
Well, for big data, we use it side under the hood of Wismo Labs, and that helps us to identify the problems during the shipment before they actually happens. And as an extension of that, we can treat those communications, unlike any other tracking systems, in a more tailored way. So again, it helps us not only to see where the problem is, but also analyze the customer profile, their engagement rate, and their anxiety level during the tracking shipment so that we can leverage that data and communicate the potential issues in a way that would lower an anxiety level of the specific customer. And that only became possible with AI, where you can really operate on one-to-one basis between, instead of segmenting and breaking customers into large segments, you can tailor it on a much lower level, right down to the individual consumer.
Yeah, and obviously there's massive advantages of being able to do that. I want to switch it up. I think we talked about you're trying to build your personal brand up, right?
I'm not sure if we can try, but I probably it's such an early stage of that journey, and it's not that I'm trying. I'm doing some things without much understanding of what exactly I'm doing. Not sure if I even have realistic expectations, but I understand that I need to do this for the longevity of the business because at the end of the day, just like you've mentioned on the LinkedIn, you scroll up and you clearly can see that most of those posts are really nothing but AI talking to AI. That's solvable with managing your own feed as a sort of at a curated fashion where you only follow and really see the posts from those who you explicitly checked off as I want to see that. And I think for those social media to survive, they will need to provide such functionality. But because you're right, it's sometimes it feels like you're at the party that you were not invited but were dragged into, and you don't want to be there.
Yeah, open up your YouTube feed and it's what the heck? I didn't click on any of this stuff. I still think it's worth talking about though, Dimitri. So you see the importance of a personal brand, founder-led brand, than you controlling the narratives, whatever you want to call it. What are when it comes to building your brand, what are some of the things that you are trying? And honestly, I think it's all valuable here because other founders will be in a same position as you. I'm just trying everything. I don't know if it's going to work, but how are you making those decisions?
Well, I avoided participation in social media as a plague for as long as I could because fundamentally I was always approaching any communication from the perspective point of view, can I deliver value? And without having an audience delivering knowledge, bits and pieces, and those nuggets without having a feedback, you really don't know what you're doing. Like so, feedback is important. So to me, right now, it's really phase one. Build list of connections are that I know would appreciate the information that I could share. At
Right.
the same time, in parallel, I'm pushing out those stories. Maybe some of them are similar to what you and I talked about. Some of them get some traction. So right now, I'm trying a bunch of different things and see what sticks. Just gauging. I can see that even over the past couple of months, the engagements are growing. Some of them clearly are AI generated. Some of them are very clearly from the real human beings. We'll see where this journey gonna take me. I don't know.
I think you nailed it on the head. You just have to try everything. see what happens. And if you can identify a pattern that clearly got better engagement than another one, double down on that. And whether it's AI generated or not, as long as it's helpful, Whisper Flow, the tool where you can just push to talk. Have you heard of that? No. Oh, okay. So there's a tool called Whisper Flow. You can push the button on your keyboard, talk like this, and then it generates text, voice to text. Nothing revolutionary, but it is extremely convenient when it comes to like a brain dump. And then you can turn that into content. So sometimes I will just blah, 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 put that into AI and say, take the best bits of this and make a tweet or make a LinkedIn. And it's incredibly helpful getting ideas out of your head because I can talk 4 to 5 times faster than I can type on a keyboard. And it's very efficient and is a good productivity hack for anybody who wants to build their own brand and sort of do a voice dump. Check it out. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, for sure. I take a note of it. Because
Okay.
brain dump, I'm just a E plus specialist in this.
Well, same. So you'll love Whisper Flow. I'll send you my affiliate link.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to a segment that I like to call, it's called the lightning round. I'm going to ask you 3 to 5 questions, and you're just going to answer them as short and as quickly as possible with the first thing that comes to your mind, if that's cool with you.
Okay, let's try it.
Okay. What's the most misunderstood part of the post-purchase experience?
Tracking experience isn't just logistics. It's your retailer's most engaged audience at the most receptive time.
Very good. What's one product decision you'd make again without hesitation?
I can't answer that shortly. But it's basic. It has to do. Let me just sort of think about it.
You can brain dump and I'll edit it.
Okay. Allowing retailers to easily, without any technical overhead, to generate good, relevant segments of their customers to display different journeys to different segments of the customers at different times.
Okay. Do you want to break that down further, or you good with that?
I don't know. To be honest with you, you're going to have to help me with this because the product decision, the question is about product decision. And it's
Yes.
really comes down to what differentiates us. And what really the biggest differentiator for us is ability to talk to different customers, not only on brand. So basically in our space, everybody either just purely transactional or have a lot of claims about how post-purchase experiences is such a wonderful journey that are going to make consumers fall in love with your brand. So the former, nothing special. It's just basically shipping notification. The latter, they have a very huge claim, but inability to deliver comes out from the fact that it's very difficult to scale the onboarding and setup and post-purchase platform in order to deliver on that claim. Because to scale the business, you really need to treat it as a sort of a identical conveyor transaction. So therefore, we made a decision to have this white glove setup, which is not because we have to, but because it allows us to dive deeper into customers' problem, to design this flow and turn those transactional notifications to brand building communications that actually really matters. And what might be matter for one segment of the customer might be completely irrelevant for another. So as far as the product decision goes, this ability to easily build segments within the platforms, within our platform, allowing retailers to actually talk to different segments of customers at different times in a way that they feel would benefit their brand a lot. So it's a sort of a next level Klaviyo segmentation, but within the period of time when the customers are most receptive.
It makes sense. That makes sense. Full transparency, because of the complexity of that question, we may or may not use that for a clip, but we'll try and use it somewhere because I think that adds a lot of value. Okay, thanks for breaking it down.
I struggle to answer it so shortly because shortly doesn't explain.
Do it
It
justice.
becomes the same marketing pitch that everybody else make.
Yep. No, fair.
Like the devil is in the details.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, you're bootstrapped. Was there any reason why? I don't like the word fear, but what was the main driver with you not wanting to raise money through VC funds?
When we got into this and started analyzing, given that the business was well off, and the question was, do we need to scale quickly or should we scale slower at our own capacity? The amount of resources that would need to be devoted to creating the pitch deck and following the VC process in order to get the money didn't line up. We thought that we'd better use this time to build a better product.
Okay, makes sense again. What is, if you can remember, what's the latest tool that you're addicted to? And I'm thinking about AI tools here that you personally use every day that you can't live without.
Well, I use series of different chat GPT competitors because some of them are better at something, some of them are better at other things. So you basically have to pick and choose depending on what's your idea and what the outcome you're looking for. So if it comes for code or architecture, I would pick Gemini. If it comes to just something as silly as, well, what kind of movie should we watch with the kid tonight? Probably ChatGPT will do the justice. For ideation, I would probably also use ChatGPT, but with a reasoning model, because it sometimes produces very silly results, but you get the nuggets like, yeah, that makes sense. I can build on that, a type of approach. As far as tools, really, this is probably comes out of geeky side of me. As long as I can have API access to the language model, I probably will build out my own tool to just give me exactly what I need, because I'm very detailed oriented, and with AI it's very difficult. Not only that you never know what's going to come out on the other end, but you have very limited control over the system prompts, and that makes the outcome even more unpredictable.
So fast. I think that gives us a bit of an insight into how you're using AI versus the average person. Makes total sense. You know, I had an argument with ChatGPT yesterday. It was it constantly gives me these outputs with these dashes in there, and I gave it an ultimatum: if you give me another output with a dash, I'm not paying for you anymore. And it still gave me an output with a dash, but I still had the subscription, and so it called my bluff. But I know what you mean. Some tools are better than others, like Gemini for code. Claude, I think, is better at writing than ChatGPT. Perplexity is much better for research and stuff like that. So basically,
I would
use them all.
I would argue all of what you said based on the experience. I guess it's not that, who's wrong, who's right, but it's even differs on the kind of, field of expertise you're now arguing with AI.
True, true. Which mine is limited, I would say, compared to yours.
They're all very convincing and lying. That I can tell you for sure.
That is true. Yes.
And actually, I think the biggest handicap of AI, if you're talking about something that you really have a deep and profound knowledge on, you very quickly call it a bluff, and you can see where it's wrong. But if you're trying to explore on the things that you have a surface level knowledge, it's so convincing that you feel like, well, I'm talking to an expert. When in reality, it could be such a bunch of nonsense. And that's the biggest issue with AI. People blindly believe it because it's so convincing.
On purpose too. It's
Yeah.
like it's been programmed like that on purpose. It's a good point actually that you made there. Hey Dmitri, when it comes to business, what does the next 2 to 5 years look like for you? Is there a big goal in mind, or a sort of product release that you're pushing towards?
Yes, we're currently working on the self-serve platform. And even though I was talking about white glove setup for everybody, that platform will be so good on the onboarding process, and so easy for customer pick and choose and identify the solutions for the problem they think they have, and actually verify if the underlying issue of the problem is what they really think is, that I think it will allow us to bring our product almost at the commodity pricing level to mom and pop shops.
There it is. Okay. Do you have a timeline for that?
The beta version is going to be out before the end of this year. We're actually have a date on the calendar that much sooner, but I'm trying to be realistic, knowing that every major release is delayed. But before the end of this year, we're going to have a sort of a baby small version of the platform that does fraction of what it will be capable of in the years to come.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, if you had to give a young founder who's just getting started one piece of advice, what would your advice be?
Do not overanalyze, gain experience, fail as much as you can.
Fail forward, fail faster. Very good. And I completely agree. Well, this has been a very awesome conversation. I very much appreciate how open you were and jumping on the show. For anyone listening who wants to go and check out Wismo Labs, where is the best place that they can do so?
They can go to our website, wismolabs.com. That's probably would be the best place to find out about the platform, sign up for the demo, or just get a trial.
Okay. And I'll also leave those links down below in the show notes, as well as your LinkedIn if they want to connect directly to you as a founder. This has been the Scale Forward podcast. I'm your host, Russell. Thanks for joining. Please subscribe and tune into the next episode. Dmitri, thanks again for joining us.